Well, I know I am very late to this. This happened a while ago. However, we're going to start off with taking a look at a lot of the teams that have clinched playoff spots. Starting off here today with the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes, I don't think I've gotten the opportunity to talk about them since the beginning of the season, but I have thought very high of them this year 100%. They are one of the teams that I could 100% see going all the way. They are such a good, well built, well coached team overall. They're amazing to watch as well. They're just a really fun team this season. So we'll start off with their record. In 72 games played, they have a 47, 16, and 9 record for 103 points. They have scored 241 goals and have led in 188, and they are second in the NHL. They have a 25, 9, and 3 record at home, and they have a 22, 7, and 6 record on the road. So they're obviously very good at home, and they're also very effective on the road as well. And for a really good team in the NHL, you need to be good at both. You can't be good at one and the other. For an elite team, you need to be good at both, and that's 100% something that the Hurricanes are good with. When you look at, and we're going to move into their leading scores now, because we're just going to kind of go through it right off the bat. When you look at their leading scores, this team generally, they don't have one player that is flying above everybody else. Like, you don't have a Connor McDavid on this team, of course, and that's kind of a bad example, but you don't have a player who is just miles ahead of everyone else, like Matthew Tkachuk, for example, on the Florida Panthers. You don't have a player like that. You have basically more or less everybody is in generally the same spot when it comes to points. The top three is mainly in the same spot. There's a little bit of a gap, but apart from that, they're generally in the same area for points for all of them. And that's what I think is really impressive with this Hurricanes team. And it just goes to show that you don't need one scorer to just be absolutely insane and score all the goals and points. No, maybe you just need a lot of good, solid players that can really help you out. And as well as that, too, a big role in it is Rod Brind'Amour. Brind'Amour takes a key role in why the Hurricanes are what they are. If it weren't for Brind'Amour, who would know where the Hurricanes would be at right now? But they have managed this team so well and so effectively. I could honestly talk for hours about how good and fun the Carolina Hurricanes are to watch. And they're definitely one of my Cup favorites. However, there are some stabilities to that. So we will get into that in a second here. But anyways, looking at their leading scorers now, you start off with Marty Necas, who last season, not really that good of a player, kind of had a down year for Carolina standards. And Hurricanes fans, I'll admit, they were pretty concerned about what was going to happen in regards to Marty Necas. However, he has turned it around, and he has had a career season so far with 72 games played, 27 goals, 41 assists for 68 points. A very solid young forward. Definitely has got a lot of good years ahead of him, and there were those worries of getting offer sheeted potentially. Montreal was in the talks. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and Necas is obviously having a really good season with the Carolina Hurricanes. Next up here, you have Sebastian Aho. He has played 65 games. He has 33 goals, 29 assists for 62 points. Obviously, when you think of the Hurricanes, you most likely think of Sebastian Aho as well there, and he's a very solid forward too. One of the most underrated centers and players in the league generally, if we're being honest. Definitely a player who will lead this Hurricanes team for many more years to come. The next player, he's great. However, he's hurt. You have Andrei Svechnikov. He has 64 games played, 23 goals, 32 assists for 55 points. And this is one of the stabilities when I look at the Carolina Hurricanes and whether or not they can go for a deep playoff run. And it's one of the things that I've 100% worried about with this team. Do I think it's an issue that he's hurt? Yes, it 100% is. He brings a lot of value to this Hurricanes team too. And as well as that, we'll just go through the injuries right now because why not? You start off with Andrei Svechnikov, of course, what you just said. Then you have Max Pacioretty. Those are two really key and prominent forwards there that, when you sign them, or Pacioretty mainly, when you signed Pacioretty, he was expected to come in and play that really star forward role. They traded for him, not signing him. I just realized that. But anyways, they expected him to do that. He got hurt. He came back for a little bit, and then he got hurt again. So definitely losing him is bad, but losing Svech as well is terrible. He is super valuable to this Hurricanes team, and I definitely think without him, they probably won't be the same in the playoffs. I'm going to be entirely honest. And to be honest, in some of the games that I've watched since, they have struggled without him. 100%. And it's not to say that they haven't been losing. They've been losing without him. I mean, I guess they have, but they haven't been struggling. But they've been kind of struggling to beat some of the better teams that, it would be easier to beat if you had Svechnikov in the lineup. As well as that, too, you have Andre Kase, who is kind of like a third-line role player. He's out for the rest of the season. Not that big of a blow, considering how well this team is built and just the overall depth. As well as that, too, you also have Jake Gardiner, who is also on LTIR as of right now. So that really stinks, but, he's probably done for the rest of his career. And that's been in talks with the Hurricanes of a potential contract that could get moved out. So I'm really not surprised there. Anyways, moving on for Svechnikov, you look over to Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who, when he signed that 8-year contract, I believe I was skeptical when I made that video. I was a little bit skeptical. I don't like term as it is, no matter what player. And especially for Kotkaniemi, I didn't like it either. He was coming off of a pretty mediocre year in Carolina. But the difference between him and Montreal is how, Montreal would just throw him onto the first line. With Carolina, they slowly moved him. They slowly developed him. With Montreal, the way they just develop prospects is they just throw them in. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. I love some of the prospects over there, like Harvey Pinard and Ulovin. But with Kotkaniemi and players as well, it's different players. It really all comes down to that. Different players develop differently. So that kind of is, how it goes. But Carolina has moved him through the lineup. He was playing fourth line minutes last season. I believe he was probably playing third line minutes at some point this season. Now he's playing second line. And the past couple of games, he's been pretty solid. Through 72 games played, he has 14 goals, 32 assists for 36 points. And then tied with him is Teuvo Teravainen, who I would like to butcher as Tuevo Teravainen. If you guys have been watching me long enough, you guys will know that I've butchered his name quite a lot. But as well as that, too, he's played 60 games, has 12 goals, 24 assists for 36 points. A very solid forward there as well. And yeah, that's the forward core for you. Those are your top 5 scorers for the Hurricanes when it comes to forwards. However, though, when I look at, some of the other players that are in this lineup, Jordan Marnock didn't make the top 5. Really solid scorer, really solid physical player. You look at Jordan Staal, their captain. He often gets profiled as, he doesn't score points. He's not a good captain. You don't have to score points to be a good captain. That really doesn't mean anything whatsoever. And Staal has really led this team through grit and really solid defensive play, and that's why he's actually in the conversation